Good evening. We're going to go ahead and get started, and we're going to call this meeting to order. Dr. Thomason, roll call.
President Reese, please let the record show that all 5 board members are present tonight.
Thank you. It's weird having you to my right and not down there, but welcome up here. All right, we're going to go ahead and have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, we'll go on to the approval of the agenda. I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Any questions or comments regarding the agenda? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. We are now going to go into our fiscal year 2020 expenditure budget presentation. So at this time, we will recess for the purpose of holding a public hearing on the proposed expenditure budget for the 2019-2020 school year in accordance with ARS 15-905.01. Members of the audience are invited to make comments and ask questions during the public hearing.
So how about we start over? Okay, so I do have a couple of jokes for you we'll start with, since Amy's always asking. These ones are about money, so it was a little bit of a search, but we found some. What do you call a clown that makes good financial decisions? Pennywise. Well, we thought that might sounded funny, and there's a new movie coming out, so. The other one is, why did the producers of the 007 films use government debt to fund their newest film? Because the interest in the bond is so low. You were getting there, Ms. Reese. All right. We thought that one kind of might be appropriate since we're going to kind of talk about bond dollars. Okay, so tonight I bring to you the proposed 1920 school year budget and ask you to consider it for adoption. We have gone to this presentation a couple of weeks ago. However, it's still important that we at least go through and touch on some of the high points. So, of course, some of the main factors that must be taken into consideration when you're developing a budget. You first look at your projected student enrollment for the next year. You look at your account balances and estimated carryover numbers. You also estimate what your state, federal, and local funds may be, as well as any tax levied monies that may be coming in. One common question that we get from a lot of the community is, okay, so you're proposing your budget. What is the tax rate going to look like for next year, and how is that going to affect my tax bill? So if you look, the tax rates for FY19, our primary tax rate was 3.99, and our secondary tax rate was 3.21. That secondary tax rate was made up of our M&O override at 1.61 and our bonds at 1.60 for a total tax rate of 7.21. For FY20, these are just estimates. The final tax rates will be set by the county and come out sometime mid-August. We're estimating our primary tax rate to be around 3.84 and our secondary tax rate to be about 3.20, which is made up of our M&O override of 1.59 and our bonds at 1.60 for a total of 7.04, which in essence, if you compare 19 to 20, you will see that is a decrease of 1.659. Next, we look at the calculation for our maintenance and operation budget as a whole. We start with our revenue control limit. There, it's estimated to be around a little over 73.9 million. Our override, a little over 11.1. Our current estimated carryover is approximately 3.5, and the portion of the district's sale of the state land trust, a little over $532,000. So our FY20 budget is estimated at $82,137,291. And you'll notice that that's about a $5.3 million increase from the FY19 revised budget that we did a couple of months ago. Also, please keep in mind that we estimate our carryover to be 3.5, but we're hoping, of course, that it will be more, but we won't know what that number will be until we officially close out the year sometime in September. So any additional carryover will be picked up in a future budget revision. The additional $5.3 million will be used to help cover additional salary increases and additional positions for the next school year. Our override dollars, the $11 million, the override money has been, the district has appreciated it very much, and it has allowed the district to implement some examples of that, might be some longevity stipends. We've been able to hire and implement some additional substitutes for the classrooms. We reinstated our lunch aides and added additional bus routes for our students. We've also been able to fund all-day K, support art, music, band, and PE, all of these programs of which are not funded through basic state aid money. It does take additional revenue to make those things happen, as well as being able to continue our curriculum adoption that we started a few years back and provide additional resources and technology to our classrooms for our teachers and students. So looking at the funding level, what's changed? So in FY19, our funding was $4,009.57 per ADM. We have a 2% inflation, so about $80. We have the governor's 20 by 20, so that's about $112. So if you add all of those together from the 4,009 up to our base level support for next year's will be $4,202.31, which is approximately a 4.8% per pupil increase from the 18-19 school year. Next is our average teacher salary. So for FY19, we've estimated our average teacher salary to be a little over $54,000. I say estimated because we're still in the process of trying to pay out the rest of the payroll expenses for this school year. Our average teacher salary we estimate for 20 to be $56,568. Again, this is an estimate because this could change based on our staffing level and needs. Of course, if any of this changes, this information will be updated in a future budget revision and represented to you at that time. Next, we have our unrestricted capital budget. So we are anticipating a $12.7 million carryover into next year. If you'll remember, in 18-19, we moved $10 million out of our operating budget over into our capital budget to help meet the district's growing capital needs. However, unfortunately, since we are projecting flat enrollment for next year, we'll only be able to move $7 million as opposed to the 10. The district additional assistance, or the DAA, will be a little over $4 million. And as I'm sure you're aware, the state is in the process of trying to restore the funding formula for capital. However, unfortunately, that won't be fully restored until 2023. But to give you an idea, from 1819, the reduction last year was about 65% of the district's allocation for capital. For 1920, that cut was only going to be around 31%. So we are getting there. We're not there yet, but we are making progress. So we anticipate our capital budget to be a little over $23.7 million. To give you an idea of how those funds will be spent, of course, we'll start with our middle school lease payment, which does increase again next year. Be able to continue our curriculum adoption that we started a couple of years ago, as well as our IT refresh. We have some capital improvements. We also have some transportation replacements. Since we have such aging out fleet, we have kind of on a rotation process to be able to buy 3 to 5 buses a year, depending on the funding availability. Next, we have our special education programs, not specifically labeled disability classifications, but multiple special programs. But starting with the disability classifications, our budget for next year will be a little over $11.7 million. And you'll notice that number does continue to grow each year, but that is based on our students' need. Also, we have our gifted education. So the budget for that year will be a little over $464,000. That is a program that is not funded by the state, and the district is able to fund that through the additional override dollars that we receive from the community. So our expenditures for 19 for our special programs is a little over 11.1, and we're estimating the expenditures for next year to be a little over 12.5. Next, we have our classroom site fund, or Prop 301. We are estimating a carryover a little over $3.6 million. We had about $39,000 in interest this past year. The new allocation for next year, we're anticipating it to be a little over $6.2 million. So we're estimating a budget around $9.9 million for the 301. Again, one of the things that we strive at the district here is to be fiscally responsible and try to conserve our dollars so that we're able to provide at least a small increase each year to our teachers and resources to classrooms for those teachers. Those dollars are allocated out on a percentage basis into 3 different buckets. So you have 20% that goes into Fund 11, which is used for base salaries. You'll notice that the amount allocated in 19 was $1,450, and going into 20, it will be $1,550. Fund 12 is used for performance pay. That's 40% of that allocation. That is going from $3,000 up to $3,400 next year. And our Fund 13, which is referred to as other, that's a 40% of that allocation. Those funds, again, going from $1,450 up to $1,550 for our teachers for next year. And those funds also allow us to be able to hire additional teaching staff, as well as to provide additional resources to the classrooms as needed.
And Mr. Holland, I'm sorry to interrupt. I know you're rolling and you're doing a good job, but just for my fellow board members, so when we see that our like a beginning first-year teacher earns $40,000, I just want to make sure that we all understand. If you add these all up, you're talking about $46,500. So that's a lot of extra money for a teacher. And I'm glad our starting salaries have gone up quite a bit since I've been here. But anyway, that's an extra. I'll just tell you, as a teacher, $6,000 is. It's quite nice, and so Higley does everything it can to get those dollars to the teachers, and I just wanted to make a point of that for everybody.
And that is again why we try to hold back some of those dollars to be able to carry forward, to be able to provide those increases. If we spent every penny, you would be based off of whatever the allocation is for this next year. To give you an idea, the allocation only increased $11 going into next year.
And Mr. Holland, I guess that was my question then. Based on these numbers for the Prop 301, chances are then we will have close to maybe $3 million again next year to carry out? Like, do you kind of
Approximately,
estimate?
that's kind of what we do strive for around that.
Okay, very good.
Again, that will
It can
also
vary.
vary because of the Like, for example, in Fund 13, if we have more teachers that we have to hire, right? So it kind of also based on student needs. We
Okay.
planned for example, like 14 additional staff, additional teachers.
Okay.
But based on
You
enrollment,
do
we
a
may have to
projection
hire
though,
more.
and you kind of know.
Correct.
Very good, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Next, so we have some additional funds. So our federal projects and our Indian gaming money. So our federal projects, of course, the allocation is determined by the federal program, and those funds are passed to the Department of Education, so they're very controlled and have a lot of strings and restrictions attached to each penny, basically. Next, our instructional improvement or Indian gaming money. So we're estimating that budget to be around a little over $618,000, and those funds must be used for classroom size reduction is how we chose to use those funds. So what happens now? So tonight I bring to you the proposed budget and ask you to consider it for adoption as it has been presented. By Friday the 28th, if you adopt it, the Finance Department will upload this information to the Department of Education. The information will then be posted on ADE's website as well as the district's website. We will also send this information to the Maricopa County School Superintendent's Office for filing on that behalf. Any questions?
Mr. Holland, I just want to thank you for doing this because I know it's a lot of work, and thank your team for us because we really appreciate all the work you do.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So I tried to make it faster. Hopefully it wasn't too painful. Okay, you're welcome.
I know we don't really have many community members out there, but if anyone has any questions, it's the time to ask. This is an open forum. It's not ours. Going what?
Nobody
Okay.
has one question? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now reconvene back into our open board meeting. And we will go on to board comments. Does anyone have any board comments? All right. We'll go on to request to speak to governing board. Mrs. Reach, any requests? All right, we'll go on. We will go on to our consent agenda. I move that we approve our consent agenda as presented. Any questions or comments regarding the consent agenda?
Just one, Madam President, just for the, if I may. I asked Ms. Reach, 6.8 and 6.9 currently don't have the uploads, but they will have the documents for anybody that's looking for them, and they were at our last meeting. They were posted there, so I'm sure they'll be there momentarily if anybody's looking for those IGAs.
Any other questions or comments on consent? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstain?
Abstain.
Abstain. So that motion carries 302. All right, we will go on to our action and information items. I move that we approve the fiscal year 2020 proposed annual expenditure budget as it was proposed tonight. We just went over it, but does anyone have any questions? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries 5-0. All right, we will go on to 8.2. And I move that we approve the letter of support for the 15% maintenance and operations budget override continuation ballot question for the November 5th, 2019 special election.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Just as a reminder, we approved for a continuation of our budget override to go for this November's election. So this is a statement from the board. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries 5-0. All right, we'll go on to, I move that we approve the letter of support for the bond repurposing ballot question for the November 5th, 2019 special election. And this same thing as the governing board letter of support for the bond repurposing that we approved at our last board meeting.
Yeah,
Do you have questions?
Yeah, just one.
Sure.
It's small. It says updated lighting around the district, and I just was trying to, I know that I've probably been told, are we talking security lighting or overall lighting, and what kind of lighting are we talking about? I don't know if that's...
Of the lighting at Williams Field baseball fields, is that one of them?
President Reese, members of the board, yeah, it was lighting at the baseball fields at Williamsfield High School, but it's also upgrading lighting to LEDs at several of our areas to help reduce electrical costs, and the return on investment on there would be something that would be favorable for the district.
All right, any other questions? All right, all those in favor? Aye. That motion carries 5-0. All right, at this time, we are I'm getting there. I'm all over the place right now. Sorry, I move that we move into executive session to recess for executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.3A1 to review and discuss the superintendent's contract.
Second.
Any questions? Hey, all those in favor?
Aye.
We will now move into executive session. All right, we're going to go ahead and reconvene in our open session. We're going to go on to 10.2. I move that we approve the extension of Dr. Thomason's contract through 2022, which is a 3-year contract with a starting base pay of $185,000 annually. Any other questions or comments? We were able to come up with the renewal of the contract and a new base pay. For those who missed our last exciting meeting, that was an executive session. We did do Dr. Thomason's review, and he was rated highly performing. And due to that highly performing review is why our board is comfortable, and I would even say excited, to offer Dr. Thomason a new 3-year contract to continue to move Higley forward.
Ditto.
Right. Any other questions, comments?
President Reese?
Dr. Thomason.
I would like to say that I'm grateful and honored to work for this board. I think this is the strongest board that the Higley Unified School District has had in a long time, and I want to thank all of you for your service.
Thank you. All right, with that said, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries 5-0. I hear you? Okay, sorry. I'm not used to having two people on my left side. All right. With that, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Have a good evening.